Hey guys, what is up, and I welcome each and every one of you to a new League of Legends video. So it is time to go over the biggest changes coming to patch 8.13 in just a couple of days, because there are a bunch of changes, and as usual, if you end up enjoying the video, then don't forget to hit that like button. But right before we go into it, I just want to give you a quick reminder that the Nvidia GeForce i1 Max 2 competition is still going on until the 2nd of July. You probably saw the video when Pants crashed my room when we took our GeForce GTX 10 series laptops with Max Q design around town. Well, you have a chance to win your very own laptop, and all you have to do is take a picture of how you game on the go with your laptop and upload it to Twitter, Instagram, or Weibo using the hashtag i1maxq and the @Nvidia GeForce for a chance to win. Link will be in the description below. Good luck. Alright, so starting things off is of course going to be the Aatrox rework coming out this patch. He is a top lane champion now with abilities that are completely different. His Q ability is almost like a Riven's Q, except this one has a knock-up on every single part of it if you land it in a very specific area. His first Q is actually pretty easy to land, however his second and third Q are quite difficult to land, which is why you have his E ability, a small dash that you can combine with the Q to help you land it a little bit better. But to be completely honest with you, even with the E ability, it's still pretty hard to land. His passive just does bonus damage on your first auto attack every about 20 or so seconds with a massive grievous wounds debuff. It's a little bit awkward in lane since you almost always use it on minions, since you obviously have to CS, but if you go in for certain duels or if you just hide in a bush and wait for someone to show up, then that first auto with your passive will do a lot of damage. His W is a skill shot that traps people inside a box or a rectangle, and then if they leave it, they completely escape, but if they don't leave fast enough, they'll be pulled back into the center. Now this is great to combine with your Q and your E ability to just ensure that you land the abilities in the best spots. And his ultimate is kind of like his ultimate combined with sort of like a Swain-ish feel to it as well, where he just becomes stronger and he also revives, but the biggest difference now is the fact that he can actually move while reviving. All in all, the champion does feel pretty damn strong, and he is still a very solid duelist. Again, against a very mobile champion, especially like Fiora maybe, it might be a little bit difficult since she can always use her Q to dodge your Q, but against immobile champions or champions that can't really dodge your Q too well, you'll probably win 1v1s pretty frequently. This champion definitely has a much higher skill cap now, so he probably is going to suck for the first couple of weeks, but I feel like people will understand him and he'll be a pretty decent champion. Next up, and I talked about this in a video before, we have a new versus event coming out that I'm sure you also saw Riot's video about. This is of course to celebrate the two new skins, God King Darius and God King Garen. There'll be a bunch of missions and sides that you can choose and all that good stuff, and you'll win a bunch of rewards as well, and on top of this, of course, you'll also be able to unlock new loot boxes. Now I'll probably make a video opening these bad boys sooner or later, but these new loot boxes are going to be just kind of celebrate this event, and I'm not entirely sure how, OP or how crazy these new loot boxes will be, but there are going to be 4 new ones. A VS token, a VS bag, a lion orb, and a wolf orb. So definitely look forward to that in the next patch. Also very quickly, a writer made a post saying how they want to sort of change around how the early game Snowball works in patch 8.13. Now I'm not 100% sure if they'll actually be able to ship it out for this next patch, but keep in mind that it might be there. The quick rundown of this is the fact that they want to reintroduce the bounty on 2 kills and potentially a small increase on bounties 3 and above kills. They want to reduce the early death timers from levels 1 to 7 and reduce the amount of gold that the outer turrets give globally, so from 100 down to 50. Not the biggest changes in the world, but keep in mind if your opponent that you just killed in the lane comes back a lot faster, well, this is probably why. Next up, also the quick rework coming over to Fizz regarding his W. Now this thing is not coming out this patch. I want to just very quickly mention that to you boys and girls. It is most likely going to be back on the PBE server in a few days, and they'll be testing it even further, maybe even further changes, but it is not coming out this patch. But now let's finally get into the actual buffs and nerfs, starting off with Camille. The damage on her E ability, Hookshot, has been just flat out reduced at every rank, especially as you rank it up, because it has 55 less damage at rank 5. This is what really makes Camille super strong early on into the game, especially jungle Camille, with just how much presence she can have because of her E ability and the damage that it can also provide. So nerfing this is definitely a step in the right direction, though I don't think it'll completely gut her. Then we also have a quick nerf coming over to Dr. Mundo. Honestly, a very strong tank, probably one of the strongest tanks in the very moments. Masochism, his E ability, the max bonus AD has been lowered as you rank it up to a total of 40 less by rank 5, and also the minimum bonus AD offered by his E ability is also lowered as you rank it up, now a total of 20 less by rank 5. Not entirely sure if this was the biggest issue with Mundo. The main problem is the fact that he's just literally impossible to kill, but we'll see what happens. Following this, we have a quote-unquote nerf coming over to Irelia, and the TLDR of this nerf is going to be the fact that it is going to make her a lot weaker in the early to mid game, but late game I do believe she will be stronger. The base damage on her passive has just flat out been reduced, however the scaling on this has just flat out been increased because now it's 16% bonus AD period rather than starting at 8 and going up up to 16. And on top of this, the attack speed from her passive has also been buffed. So again, like I said a little bit earlier in the early to mid game, but definitely stronger as you rank up and you get more damage. Moving on to her W, you can see here the damage just overall has been reduced on this ability period, which is definitely good because her W is way too overpowered and way too just stacked in terms of what it can do. And the final nerf is towards her E ability. The mark duration has been lowered from 6 seconds down to 5 seconds. So as you can see, it is overall definitely a nerf for Irelia, though I still honestly believe that once you get to the very late part of the game, her passive is going to scale really well and she is going to be really strong. And is this enough to bring her down to where she should be? Honestly, I don't really think so, but I guess we'll find out. Next up, we have a very quick buff coming over to Jarvan towards his E ability, Demacian Standard. The cooldown on this has been lowered to now being 11 at all ranks rather than starting at 13 and going down to 11, and the damage has just flat out been increased by 20 at rank 1, and then it evens out to back to 240 by rank 5. Essentially, the only difference this made was the fact that his E ability is now just much better at rank 1, because usually you want to max his Q ability and then you can either max your W or your E, but now maxing W second on Jarvan might be the best thing to do since your E ability is level 1 is just so much better now. Next up, let's go over a bunch of changes they're doing to the ADC role, whether it's buffs or nerfs. So first, let's talk about the nerf actually coming to Lucian, because Lucian is of course a very strong AD carry at the very moment. His AD per level is being reduced by a decent amount, and his ultimate's minion damage has also been lowered by half. And Rageblade has also been nerfed, where their bonus AD and the AP have both been lowered from 4% down to 2.5%, nerfing champions like Kai'Sa. In other words, Riot is trying to nerf those top 3 AD carries at the moment, except for Ezreal apparently, so Kai'Sa and Lucian, and then make way for the crit AD carries to try and kind of shine through once again. So that being said, we have some buffs coming over to Jinx, where they actually buffed her overall bonus rocket damage to also crit. They also buffed her W's AD ratio by 20%, which honestly is a decent amount. They also are looking into buffing Kalista to make the AD ratio on her spear damage slightly higher. Now, I'm not entirely sure if this is the final thing yet or if they're actually putting in this change. They might be actually still discussing it, so might not expect it to come next patch, but maybe the patch after. Following this, we also have the buff coming over to Tristana, where the AD ratio on her E ability has been increased by a lot. I mean, as you rank it up, it'll now go up to 110% bonus AD rather than the current 90%, obviously helping her scale even better. Following this, a quick buff coming over to Twitch's E ability, Contaminate, where the AD ratio has been increased by 10%. And Vayne had buffs as well, though they seem to be removed, so I'm not entirely sure what's happening with that. But on top of this, the cost for Infinity Edge has been lowered by 100. And Stormrazor received some buffs as well, where the AD has been increased by 5, and now it gives you more movement speed for a shorter duration. But keep in mind, the changes to Stormrazor, Infinity Edge, and Essence Reaver, I believe, are already on the live servers. But let's get away from all the changes to AD carries for a moment and talk about a buff coming over to Kassadin. This guy has not been seeing the spotlight recently because the meta just doesn't favor him, but maybe this will change it up. His W's active AP ratio has been increased by 10%, the AP ratio on his E ability has been increased by 10%, and the AP ratio on his ultimate has also been increased by 10%. This I don't think will make that much of a difference, and I say that because, well, by the time Kassadin gets his items, yeah, he's strong, but he's so useless pre-6 that those early skirmishes that happen quite often now, he is not going to help that whatsoever, and that can be definitely a big problem. Next up, the mini reward coming over to Kyndra's W ability, where they gave what they used to have a long ago. So no longer will Wolf's Frenzy reduce the monster's attack speed by 50%. Instead, now, as Kyndra moves and attacks, they will actually build stacks of Hunter's Vigor up to 100, and upon auto-attacking at 100 stacks, you drain 34 up to 102 based on level health from the target based on Lamb's missing health, which again works on champions and monsters and minions. Overall, a decent buff that'll not only help their clear because they'll be just more healthy coming out, but they'll also be able to duel champions a little bit better since the old passive obviously didn't do anything against champions. Next, we have a quick nerf coming over to Master Yi and Taric to try and counteract the whole boosting strategy happening with these two champions, where the Q cost on his Alpha Strike has actually been lowered, but no longer does it do bonus damage to minions, so you can't just come to mid lane and take the farm from Taric and do the so-called funneling strat. The nerfs to Taric are as follows. The E ability's bonus armor has actually been increased, but the damage has been lowered, and the cooldown on his ultimate has also been increased. Following this, a quick Nunu nerf. Blood Boil, his W, the AP ratio has been lowered by 20%, but it now has two new scaling effects where for AP and attack speed, you gain additional 5% per 100 AP. And on top of this, the flat attack speed offered by this ability has also been lowered. So in other words, if you still want to get a lot of bonuses from this W ability, you actually have to build a decent amount of AP. Next, some quick changes coming over to Pike, where his HP per level has been lowered, but his MR per level and armor per level has been increased. And then you'll see for his E ability and his ultimate, the AD ratio have both been increased by 20%, but the damage on them just flat out have overall been decreased. This is a way to just try and nerf the whole tank Pike support thing going on right now, and if you want to deal the same damage, well, you're gonna have to actually start building some damage. Following this, a quick buff coming over to Riven, where the HP regeneration has been slightly increased and the cooldown on her ultimate has also been decreased at the earlier ranks. Not the biggest change in the world, but I thought I'd mention it. Next up, a quick nerf coming over to Singe, the champion that has been showing a lot of dominance recently. First, we have his E ability where the target's max health as damage has been overall lowered at the earlier ranks, but then going to the same 8% by rank 5. And then you have his ultimate where the stats you gain from actually using the ultimate have been slightly lowered by 5 at every single rank. Is this enough to actually nerf Singe? I'm not entirely sure. I mean, this is going to be pretty nice since, you know, most Singes do max Q, and since his E ability got nerfed at the earlier ranks, it will be less powerful overall, so maybe it's enough, maybe it's not. We'll find out. We also have a quick buff coming over to Vladimir, where his E ability, Spinning Slash, has had its cooldown overall lowered as you rank it up, going down to 7 seconds by rank 5 instead of 9 seconds. I mean, a little bit of help here and there for Vladimir is definitely something that he will appreciate. Also, a quick nerf coming over to Vladimir and his E ability, where the max damage AP has been lowered by 20%, and I mean, this ability is just insane. Vladimir is insane, and yeah, this champion deserves even more nerfs in my opinion. But finally, the champion that deserves all the nerfs in the entire world, we have Zoe, Spell Thief, her W. The AP ratio on this has been lowered by 10%, and the movement speed duration has just overall been lowered as well. And last but not least, we also have some quick buffs coming over to some keystones, first of which being Halo Blades, where the time between attacks to keep the effect going has been increased to 2 seconds, and the cooldown overall has been lowered to 4 seconds out of combat rather than 5. Unsealed Spellbook also received a quick buff where the swap cooldown reduction has been increased from 15 seconds to 20 seconds in terms of how much it lowers it until you can do it again, and a quick buff to going Domination as your primary tree, because this combined with any other tree as your secondary tree will now just give you extra stats. But that is about it for this video, guys. There you have it, a bunch of changes coming over to this patch already. A massive changes coming over to the AD carry roles, a bunch of champions being buffed, nerfed, the Aatrox rework, the new versus event, and a bunch of other stuff as well. So if you guys end up enjoying this video, then don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't, check out my other videos as well, and I hope to see you for the next one. Peace.